Heads up, it's the Roll Jays podcast, the voice of the Creighton basketball fan. With your hosts, Jimmie Allen, Alex Drake, and Casey Matthews. Join the crew and meet CU players, coaches, and a whole lot more. Now, the Roll Jays podcast. Here's Jimmie Allen.
Good afternoon, everybody. It is Championship Saturday here in the Big East. Creighton ready to take on the hometown team in St. John's. The 1 and the 2 seed meet at Madison Square Garden tonight. Jimmie Allen, Alex Drake, Casey Matthews with you here live from the New Yorker right across the street from Madison Square Garden. Guys, we got to talk about last night. Alex, obviously, Creighton gets up to a big 15-point lead. UConn storms back. Emotions are high. The Jays end up pulling out the win behind the heroic efforts of Jimmie Allen and Jason Green. What were you surprised about last night after the DePaul game and how that game started versus how last night went?
I mean, clearly it's just – jeez, Casey?
Yeah. You and tables don't get along.
Clearly, it's just the way that they were able to get off to a good start. And for me, obviously, we can talk about Jason Green and Jimmie Allen just being lights out in that first half. I mean, that's obviously a huge surprise because we went into half with Stephen Ashworth and Ryan Kalkbrenner combining for 9 points. I don't think anybody had that on their keys to the game. If this happens, we're going to be in a good position. But for me, it was how they controlled UConn on the defensive end. They made it really hard for Liam McNeely. He was in his limited shot attempts in the first half. He was relatively efficient. That didn't really carry over into the second half. But the biggest thing for me, in case I'm curious to get your thoughts on this, I think when UConn went on their run in the second half, when it was a 17-point Jays lead, and then UConn went on their run to cut it to 5. I don't remember his name, but the guy with the Draft Network that was sitting next to us says you gotta feel good about that, and I really didn't, and it was more so because of what had happened in Omaha, and a few other games this year where Creighton has let big leads go. They didn't necessarily lose them like they did against UConn.
So Creighton is 20-2 this season when leading at halftime, and both of those 2 losses came after having double-digit leads.
Yeah, so I mean. I was really impressed that they never really let it get below 5. It got to 3 maybe once, but they did a really good job of extending that stiff arm. And that's just something that maybe I have enough bad memories, but
Sure.
I don't want to say it's like customary for this program, but I have enough bad memories that it's worrisome when it gets there.
Sure. I mean, anytime you're up big like that and the team gets it close,
in a hurry.
You're going to be nervous. I think the thing with UConn and Creighton is that there haven't been that many blowouts, for a full game. And then too, we just had an example of it just a few weeks ago where a very similar situation happened. So I think I understand the nervousness, and what was maybe even more worrisome for me was it wasn't happening all from Liam McNeely.
Good point.
We kept him in check, and so you kind of always felt like maybe if Liam gets going too, this could be a problem.
And on top of that, sorry, I don't mean to cut you off, but Steven and Ryan had never really gotten going either. So
sure,
you weren't really sure what your answer was going to be.
No, there was a point in the game where I think I maybe said something to you where we had a 5-point lead. They had the ball with a chance to go down and score, and we ended up getting a stop and then hitting a 3. And I felt like, okay, the momentum. I actually got a text from a UConn fan that said, man, we had all the momentum, and that exchange there, you guys got all the momentum back. I was going into a timeout, and that it was deflating, because if you're UConn, you can cut that under 5, get it to be a 1-possession game before that timeout. Now you're in the timeout huddle talking about it's a 1-possession game, guys. We're right here, rather than okay, let's get the momentum back. It's because now I don't have it. I got to get it back. And
you got to chase it.
So the mentality is very different. But yeah, what an entertaining game. It was a super exciting just night in general, and I really like the fact that we kind of exercised those demons a little bit with having a big lead against UConn. They came back, but we held them off, and ended up pulling it out in the end.
Yeah, and I think I I was thinking this as it was happening because we had talked about it on Thursday night. The Jays expended a ton of energy through the emotion to get back into that game. And we had talked about it, like a lot of times you still see that team that makes that huge comeback lose. And then when Creighton right at that point, Creighton hit that three and they kind of put out that stiff arm, we were both thinking, I was thinking mentally, you actually said it to me, you said they're gassed. And it was very apparent at that point.
Yeah. The thing for me last night, the reason I think it started getting a little tight in our chests around the time that UConn came back is we saw that it wasn't a 15-point lead, but it was an 11-point lead in Omaha where Liam McNeely just goes off in that second half. And I think there was a lot of thought back to that game in Omaha where you felt like you had the game won. You felt like you were kind of playing with house's money because Dan Hurley had never won inside the Chai. But last night, I think there was that. We don't like. It's one thing to lose to UConn when it's a little bit of a rivalry. It's another thing to be up by 15 and then lose to a team that you can't stand to and a coach that you can't stand, because then not only do you lose that game, but you lost to them twice this season, right? That's the thing about Creighton and specifically this game tonight against St. John's. The reason a lot of people feel pretty good about this matchup, despite them being the number 1 seed, the number 6 team in the country, and one of the best defensive teams, if not the best defensive team in the country, is you got the win over them already, right? You've seen it happen, and you know you can win. And it's not like the UConn story where the first game you didn't have Liam McNeely, and the second game you did. And I think that helped a little bit last night, obviously having more scout and tape against a team where you're playing against everybody that you played against in Omaha. I'm really interested to watch the game inside the game tonight, right, between Greg McDermott and Rick Pitino, and how do they navigate matchups and styles and who's switching off. Listen, the reason Jason Green went off in the first half last night is because he had a really good matchup. UConn switched that in the second half and didn't put him in the same position, let him get the same looks. What's that matchup look like tonight? How does Greg McDermott match Rick Pitino's energy? And to your point, momentum, calling timeouts at the right time, making sure you're not getting sped up. Creighton only had 7 turnovers last night. That's something we didn't talk a ton about.
7 or 4?
Or 4, excuse me, I'm sorry, 4.
2 in each half.
And they had 7 the night before. And they've been in the
one
second
was a
half.
shot clock violation.
Yep.
Right, and that's something we've been talking about turnovers all night, all season. Last night we didn't even bring it up because it was such a non-factor that it was easy to miss on the stat sheet.
That same UConn person I was referencing texted me yesterday before the game, and he said, "What do you think that has to happen for Creighton to win?" And that first thing I said was, "Got to control turnovers, no live ball turnovers." And the second thing I said was, they need to get off to a good start." And
did both those
things happen, and I felt really good from that. I think here's something I'm excited to see tonight, which I think works to our advantage. I really think this team is better and focuses more when we're the hunter.
I agree with that.
Tonight, we're 6.5-point underdogs. Tonight we've never won one. Tonight is Coach McDermott versus Coach Pitino, who just won Coach of the Year. It's Ryan Cockburner versus R.J. Lewis, who won Player of the Year. There are so many storylines that you can paint the picture of why we shouldn't win. And this team has proven all season long that doesn't matter. It does not matter to this team. They find a way. They overcome obstacles. They overcome adversity. Certainly they're going to have to do the same tonight to win it. It's not going to be a blowout, I wouldn't think. But this team is capable. And I'm just telling you, I know I'm a homer. I get it. I love them. But
that's what we're here for.
If I could handpick somebody to coach this team tonight, I'd be handpicking the guy that's going to be doing it. Yeah. And I'm really, really excited to see it.
It's just why we're so blessed in the Big East too, right? And sorry to cut you off, but it's Hurley, it's Pitino, it's Mack, it's Holtman, it's Shaka,
Coach Cooley. The list doesn't.
Your guy Shaheen Holloway. There's so many.
Your guy.
So many guys at the top of this profession in this league, and that's why when we talk about winning on the road in the Big East, it's not only going on the road into a tough environment, in the majority of these buildings being sold out against teams that want to beat you, but you also got to coach against the guy on the other side of the court. That's usually pretty darn good.
Yeah, it makes you raise your game.
Yeah, 100%. I kind of want to build off of what you were talking about for an advantage, Casey. I think an added advantage, for Creighton tonight, is there's not really a lot of teams in the conference that play the style that we do. But UConn plays a similar defense to St. John's, especially in that second half where they were trying to speed us up, keep the ball out of Stevens' hands. And so I think coming off that fresh and knowing how to fight against it, it is an advantage. Now, St. John's does it in a way that nobody else can replicate, but you got probably the best look at the replication last night.
Yeah, it's similar. I think St. John's defensively is way better than UConn.
I think they're the best defensive team in the country.
Yeah, between them and Houston, probably they'd fight it out for 1 and 2. In the conference, it's not close. They're number 1 in every defensive metric except for block shots, and there's number 2 in that. So, I mean, their defensive efficiency numbers, they allowed 0.95 points per possession. Like, they're really, really good defensively. And part of that obviously is Coach Pitino, and then he's very good at taking away your best options. That's where tonight I think it's going to be interesting to see is, one, is handling the pressure, but two is, it's going to take a few possessions before Mac can kind of see how Coach wants to guard him and what he's trying to take away. The obvious thing is going to be take away Ryan Kalkbrenner, which that's
what UConn tried to do last night.
Yeah, certainly they'll try that. They'll try to do that here, and if memory serves me correctly, the game here, the big pal, was okay, but he wasn't dominant. And I think tonight would be a concerted effort for him to be dominant. I'd look to see what we do on adjustments when they trap the post, if they trap the post. Last night, Ryan turned one over. It was one of our only live ball turnovers where we got doubled in the post, and he tried to skip it out opposite, and we turned it over. So what's the adjustment there? It's going to be a fascinating game to watch. The environment's going to be off the charts. It's the first time St. John's has been in the championship in, 15 years or something crazy
2008,
like that.
So would that be 17? Yeah.
The place is
Shout out to the construction worker last night that reminded us of that last night. Yeah.
I mean, it's gonna
Sorry,
be,
sir, we didn't get your name.
Be bananas. And I mean, we got to see you guys. I mean, this is not going to be one of those games where you just can go in there and expect everything to come easy. You're going to have to work for everything you get. I don't think that this team is afraid of that in any way. We have senior leadership. We've got fearless freshmen. I do feel that we can do this tonight, and you don't always necessarily get that feeling against a number 1 team, a top 10 team in the country.
Flashback to the Garden, you asked about it. Creighton lost 79-73. Ryan Kalkbrenner, 12 points, 9 boards, 2 blocks. Stephen Ashworth went off for 23 in this one. He was 4 of 12 from the 3-point line, though, and 7 of 17 from the field. You need him to be
for the big fella.
Yeah, but tonight you need Stephen Ashworth to be more efficient than that, and not turn into a volume shirt, in my opinion.
100%.
I mean, Jimmy and I met a great St. John's fan this morning in the lobby of the hotel.
A personal friend of Rick Pitino, apparently.
Yeah, I mean, he said that we were not who they wanted to face. And, I mean, I know we all want to beat St. John's. Obviously, we want to beat St. John's. I think that's an incredible story for our first win. But truth be told, I think we all agreed that
Marquette would
have been a better matchup for us for our probability. But this is just like last night, right? From a player mentality, if you can't come in juiced, I mean, I'm not saying like you have to come in and hit your first 8 shots or whatever we did last night, but if you don't come in with the energy and the focus on the defensive end, then take yourself out, because you don't get a lot of opportunities to beat the hometown team in Madison Square Garden for a conference championship.
Yeah. The one thing I'll say about the matchup last night between Marquette and St. John's, though, and it's something that I'm interested to see how fresh St. John's legs are. And obviously, nobody's going to be fresh. They both played 2 games before this. That game with the Golden Eagles last night was incredibly physical. Bodies were flying. The referees were letting them bang inside. And obviously, it's also the end of the season, right? This has been happening all year. That last night, that matchup between Marquette and St. John's was by far the most physical game I've seen in this tournament this week.
Anytime you play either one of those teams, you're in for a physical matchup. When they collide together, it's 2 styles of play, where Marquette is more trying to get deflections and trying to be up in you. I was talking to one of Marquette's coaches the other day, and he said the one thing about Chaka is I believe our team is never going to lose because the other team played harder than us. That is their staple. That is what they hang their hat on. And so if you're going to go into a game with that mentality that no one's ever going to play harder than you, well, when you face St. John's, that means you have to elevate it to another level. So physicality-wise, it was off the charts. Emotion was, it was super emotional in there, last night. I expect the same tonight. What I'm really interested to see is how we match up against Kadari Richmond. Who do we put on them? I'm assuming it's going to be a little bit of mixture of Jemiah Neal, Maybe sprinkle a little bit of Jason in there if you have to. But I would think most of the time it's going to be Jemiah. Can Jemiah stay out of foul trouble? I don't know. Can he guard him and move his feet and not let Kadari get physical and get into his body and cause him to draw fouls? I don't know. But it's going to be a really important part of this game because we need Jemiah on the court tonight to be able to match up and not have to rotate guys into matchups that we don't want them in.
Throw that into the equation. You also got to defend the Big East Player of the Year in R.J. Lewis, right? And Zuby Ejiofor is coming off a night.
It's a good call. And maybe Jemiah's on. Maybe Jemiah's on him.
Yeah,
I
think Jason drew the Richmond matchup in Omaha the most. If I remember,
it's death by 1,000 cuts tonight, though, right? Because you got to pick your spots here in case you're
Wiltshire.
Yeah, you're right though, guys. You're 100%
Ejiofor went
right.
off for 33 last night. You had 4 guys score in double digits. Lewis, Ejiofor, Scott, and Richmond all went off for double digits last night, and Simeon Wiltshire added 7 to the equation too. So there's so much talent on that team.
Yeah, no, I think I'm wrong on that one though. I don't think Jemiah would guard Kadari at this point. Then
I think he's got to be on Lewis.
RJ. Yeah, I'm an idiot.
I think Jemiah got some reps with him in Omaha, but I think Jason Green drew it for
they
at least the
run
majority
so
of the
much
first half.
action and motion though that you're going to have to switch, and everybody's going to have to be accountable anyway.
That's that changes it a little bit too though.
It's
going to be fascinating.
This is the Roll Jays podcast brought to you by Pixel Fire Marketing, Pyramid Contractors, and Pepper Jack's Grill. We'll take a quick break here, give our thoughts on tonight. How special would it be to see Mac cut down next? What does it mean for Ryan Kalkbrenner's legacy to win this game, and a whole lot more? It is the Roll Jays podcast brought to you by Pixel Fire Marketing, Pyramid Contractors, and Pepper Jack's Grill.
Are you dreaming of your business dominating local Google searches, drawing in customers effortlessly? Look no further. I'm Courtney, the Google gal from Pixel Fire Marketing. Need assistance with your Google business profile? From verification to getting more reviews, fixing maps to tackling annoying Google calls? I've got you covered. Your profile sets you apart and ensures you're the top choice for local customers. Visit fixmygbp.com for our $297 special offer. Visit fixmygbp.com for more details.
When you shop local, you help strengthen our community. So if you need roof repair, gutters, siding, even windows, call local Pyramid Contractors. They're the #1 roofer in Omaha for more than a dozen years. Let Pyramid Contractors come and give you a free estimate. Give them a call at 402-502-9300. That's 402-502-9300. Or visit them online at PyramidRoof.com. Never settle for less.
This is why you need to try Pepper Jack's Grill, the best Philly cheesesteak in America. At Pepper Jack's Grill, we craft your Philly just the way you like it. Fresh ingredients, sizzling on the grill, and endless customization options. Not just Phillies, we've got rice bowls, burritos, nachos, and even vegetarian choices. And don't forget those crispy fries with our famous spicy ranch. With 10 great locations in Omaha, there's a delicious meal waiting for everyone in the family. Pepper Jack's Grill, your Philly, your way.
Welcome back to the Roll Jays podcast, brought to you by Pixel Fire Marketing, Pyramid Contractors, and Pepper Jack's Grill. Jimmie Allen, Casey Matthews, Alex Drake with you live from the New Yorker right across the street from Madison Square Garden ahead of tonight's Big East Championship matchup between the St. John's Red Storm and our Creighton Blue Jays. And guys, I mean, we're getting tweets, we're getting messages, we're getting texts tonight about everybody being so excited for this. We talked about Marquette being the best, the better matchup for Creighton to win a game. There wouldn't be buzz like this. It's St. John's. It's at the Garden. Creighton's never beaten St. John's inside this Garden. Creighton is 0-4 in Big East Championship games. MAC has never won a conference championship tournament title outside of the Missouri Valley. Creighton has never won a conference championship outside of the Missouri Valley. Casey, you've been on the staff previously. You've been around this program for a long time. What would it mean for Greg McDermott, his legacy, and to do it with this team to win a tournament championship in this setting?
Yeah, I mean, I think one. I mean, I've talked probably too much about Coach Mack and how.
Oh, are you fond of him?
I think, yeah. I mean, I like him a little bit. For his legacy, you know, I think in terms of Creighton, his legacy is already cemented as the greatest coach to ever coach here. I mean, his name's on the building. It certainly would take it up a notch there, but you know, I think also nationally, it would certainly take his brand of, you know, basketball and just himself to a different tier, to not only win the Big East Championship tournament, but to do it against Coach Pitino in Madison Square Garden. I mean, that's a pretty good script.
Yeah, for sure.
But I think what it means, I mean, to me personally, I don't know how I would react. I think I'd be pretty emotional, just knowing, you put a lot of work in to get here, and unfortunately, I've been on the losing side of this game twice. And one time was Georgetown, and just a weird year, with COVID and everything else. And then the other time was Colin Gillespie hits 2 back-to-back threes on some missed defensive assignments that, if we just do what we needed to do there, we're cutting down nets that night. And so to be that close a couple times and not be able to get it done, to me, I just think it'd be special to all of us that have been a part of these teams that have gotten so close. It would just be really, I don't know, just be proud. To be really just proud of Coach, to be proud of the players. What a special way to sort of send out Ryan Kalkbrenner too after, I mean, I don't know what you guys think, but I would say Ryan Kalkbrenner goes down as the second most valuable and most important player in Creighton basketball history.
Yeah, because the debate between who's the better player is intriguing, right? But like from an importance standpoint, like I don't think anybody's ever going to top Doug just because of the timing, right? Like 100%. he was the first one, right? It's so hard to say that this person or that person could or would be because they weren't the first, and it's really hard to and it doesn't feel like Creighton's ever going to jump to another conference as big as the Big East or the equivalent of, and to be able to navigate those waters with a National Player of the Year makes it such a big difference in this discussion.
100%. And listen, I mean, full disclosure, I mean, I love the Big Pal, but Doug McDermott's been in the NBA for 10 years. I mean, he's got the edge in terms of just overall player. But that doesn't matter to me. It's more of just what they mean to the program. And to me, Kalkbrenner has meant so much to this program. But
you can argue he's meant so much to this conference too.
That's fair. I mean, 4-time Defensive Player of the Year. The only other one to do it is Patrick Ewing. Like that's amazing.
It's pretty good rare air to be in.
I would literally, we got ice cream the other night, and I'm walking with him and Rachel, and we're talking, and he was a little bit bummed out about not winning Player of the Year. And I said, look, pal, like you got to don't worry about that right now. You need to focus on these games. You won Defensive Player of the Year 4 times in a row, man. The only player to ever do that was Patrick Ewing. I said, I know that doesn't mean a lot to you right now, but in 20 years, you're going to be sitting on your couch one day watching basketball, and that stat's going to come up on the TV, and it's going to be like, man, I did that, and so
you and one other guy ever,
and who's considered one of the best. But let me get this in, guys, real quick, and I'll stop talking. And is the other thing that I think is interesting is we heard Mac's comments last night, and I'm paraphrasing when he said, a lot of guys think that we don't play a tough brand of basketball.
I love that
quote.
I've
got tough dudes in this locker room. That's the other side of this for me, is a stamp of planting your flag of no. Toughness can be defined in multiple ways, and you can win doing it my way and doing it this way. And as of right now, you can still debate that, whether or not you can win this big one doing it this way. And so that's the other side of it for me, is almost a validation of, nope, Coach Matt came in here, changed up everything he was doing at Iowa State.
On the fly, too.
Yeah, and bought into doing it this way. And now years and years later, can it pay off? And can he win a Big East tournament championship with that kind of toughness?
The order in which the events happened last night, and I don't want to get back into the Jemiah thing because we hashed it out on the air. He's apologized. It's a new day. It's a much bigger environment today. But the fact that happened, and Casey or Alex, correct me if I'm wrong here, but I can't remember Mac ever weighing in on the soft comment before. And it's something that specifically has been thrown out about Ryan Kalkbrenner specifically. Sure. And we talk all the time. Listen, I piled on Jimmie last night. I'll own that. I did. I was disappointed in him. I know he apologized. It just isn't the right time or place. But we see all the time, and we credit coaches for getting out of line a little bit and getting teed up to motivate their teams. I wonder how much what happened at the end of the game last night was a statement for Jimmie Allen for the rest of his team about being soft. And if you think we're soft, look what happens when we choose not to be aggressive.
Sure.
Yeah,
So,
I
and I
mean-
think that goes a long way.
I can't remember anything specifically, but I feel
don't
like
thi- I don't think it's
Mac-
happened.
I think Mac has, quipped at it a little bit. Nothing like last night for sure. And I think that was the edge that they were playing with all night last night. They came in with that same mindset that Max spoke about there at the end. That's how I felt. I mean,
Yeah.
they came in with a level of focus last night, specifically on the defensive end. I mean,
I was impressed. I really was.
I hear all the time Creighton doesn't play defense, blah 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 blah, because they don't force turnovers or this or that. Creighton has been pretty good in the last, I don't know,
Where do you hear that from?
80
Yeah.
minutes. Mainly Nebraska fans.
Okay. Well, that's your problem.
They held the 2-time defending national champions to 7 assists last night.
Yes,
Not from one guy.
that's
as a
that's
team.
my point.
Well, I ask you that question, Alex, because you must not be talking to anybody with a basketball IQ, because defensively, Creighton's been the best, or one of the best defensive teams in this conference.
Yes, by metrics, absolutely. And
They also have the
I think-
4-time
Jim-
reigning defending
Yeah.
defensive.
But even before that, I felt
Player
like
of
it
the
was
year.
trending up.
yeah, no, I've always said here's the thing. I that I feel this way. Like Creighton plays very solid defense. They don't play a defense that ever really puts them in a bad position. They force you to take shots that you take. Last year after the Iowa game, it was last year, right?
Yeah.
After the Iowa game, Jimmy and I got calls all night about how soft this team was because they let the Iowa big man hit a bunch of mid-range jump shots.
20-foot mid-range jump shots.
Yeah, like the worst shot in basketball. He just happened to hit him that night. Like,
Yeah.
this team is really good defensively. They're just not really good in a way that not a lot, but some casual fans like to watch.
I do think that's important to point out. Like, and I know we've harped on that game a lot, but like those were the casual basketball fans that didn't understand what they were watching that was calling it. Like, and we explained that to them, and it was they hemmed and hawed. No, that can't be the case. And why wouldn't you guard that guy if he gets that hot? It's because you designed an entire game plan around getting them to do that, and logistics and literally. The history of basketball tells you that they're not going to be able to hit that clip.
And to build off of that, I push back on, like, sometimes a team will get hot against Nebraska or Creighton or whatever, and everybody's like, throw a zone at them, this or that. And I used to think that way. But after spending time around Coach Mack and a lot of other coaches, I realized, like, at a certain point, you just have to trust who you are and what you do.
Exactly.
And you cannot.
You got to trust the week of preparation.
You cannot change that randomly on the fly in the middle of a game because that's not who you are. And to me, I think when you do try and change who you are drastically like that, especially mid-game, it's a bad signal to your team. It's a bad signal. Hey,
Signal that you don't trust yourself. It doesn't. You
Exactly.
You don't trust the game plan that you ask them to execute during the week of preparation. So why would they buy into what you're telling them to do now?
Let me just add this. I do think there's value in switching to zones when teams get hot, just to break rhythm. But I do agree to just completely abandon your defensive game plan because somebody's hitting some shots that are bad shots
That you're asking them to take.
Right. Like, I don't know if you guys caught it last night with Lucas, but he's like, they hit some tough floaters over Kalkbrenner that we're going to live with. We're good with them shooting those shots. That's the same premise. Force them to take shots that you're comfortable with them taking, and then you live with the results. You can't do it all. You can't do the hindsight, well, we should have done this. No. You make a game plan before the game starts. You make adjustments during the game, and then you live with the results.
And the adjustments are built into what you already do, though. Like, if you're a team that never plays zone, I have a hard time watching you switch to a zone.
Well, but okay.
And that means you haven't repped it either, too.
That's my point.
Game 1 against DePaul, we're down, and you saw in the second half where we actually trapped some of those ball screens, right? Or we hard hedged some of them. So there are adjustments where you can catch the defense off guard because they're so used to seeing us in drop. So whenever you do come up and set a screen and we hedge it, they panic a little bit, and maybe you can steal a possession here or there. Again, those things are just momentum breakers and takers.
For anybody that's a casual basketball fan, can you explain what a hedge is?
Yeah, for sure. So when you're going to set a ball screen, right, and you're going to go in whatever certain direction, the way that we play it is Kalkbrenner sits back in the lane and lets you lets you get depth, okay, and you can shoot that mid-range jumper. You could try to attack them at your,
Please do.
peril. So instead of doing that, what you can do, there's a few different ways to hedge, but this hedge that I'm specifically talking about is a hard hedge where Ryan would attempt to take the ball handler up the court.
Drive him back towards half court, not a flat hedge.
Right. Take the ball handler back towards half court. His man should be getting through the screen, and now they have almost a pseudo trap. Once his man can get back in front, then Ryan can recover. On the back side of that, whichever way the ball is going, the opposite corner defender is going to be in a tag situation.
Strong side corner.
And needs to hold that tag until Ryan can get back and recover. The reason why we don't do it, one, is because we want to encourage the mid-range jumper. But the other thing is it's very taxing on the bigs, which is why, like, when Christian Bishop was here, Christian was really, really good at that. And that's the way we defended when Christian was in the game, because he could hard hedge. He knew how to stay long enough to where he could read his teammates. Okay, my teammate's back. He's got him. Now I can get back to my man, and we can get back out, and we're not in rotations. So, but that's an adjustment you can make. And Ryan can do it. It's just you don't want him doing it. It's one of the reasons, guys, why Ryan stays out of foul trouble.
Yeah, 100%.
He's not out there guarding the basketball 30 feet away from the rim.
I think another thing to add to that too on the offensive end, what you really need to be conscious of as the defender, if you don't do this a lot, if you show on that hedge too soon, you get the slip. And Ryan's really good on the offensive end at slipping those when they're there. And that just means free run to the rim. So
a lot of those are now calls. We were talking earlier about ghosts, and ghosts are essentially you're running into a lot of ghosts are guard to guard ball screens. The guard's running in to set a screen. Instead of setting it, he gets out early to the opposite side, trying to create some confusion between the two guards on should I switch, should I stay, what are we doing? And when that's a 3-point shooter that's running into that ghost, and you got to stay with them, even the slightest movement of your hips by the on-ball defender can create a lane for the ball handler to get down the lane. So, and we saw that a lot with DePaul. DePaul did that a lot to us the other night. Gave us some problems. It creates confusion. It creates a situation where you have to communicate. In this setting in Madison Square Garden where it's loud, you could see some of that tonight.
Yeah, and I think too is in those ball screen actions, the key when you hedge is always that strong side help guy being in the spot, because if he's not, it is a free run to the rim. Because normally when you're running that ball screen, you're putting one of your better shooters on the side that you're going to attack. You're putting one of the better shooters in that corner and putting that. A lot of teams, not so much.
Or have him as the fill guy. If he's filling on the
fill on the backside.
That's a problem. Now who's your tag guy, right?
And it gives you the extra one pass too. Yeah, absolutely.
But what teams have been doing a lot to Steven in the ball screen is they are hard hedging and doubling.
For sure.
And then
why?
Because he's little and he's not going to be able to throw it over.
He's short.
But I think one of the better things one thing that Steven can really get 6'6".
There you go.
One thing that Steven can really get better at, and it's incredibly hard, is he needs to attack that high hip of the defender that is showing on that hedge and get around that hip. It's incredibly hard to do, especially with some of the bigs in this conference.
Yeah, the other thing too is Steven's always looking for the shot first or the lob to the big pal. So it's not typical offensive action where you're just looking to get them in a rotation. That's what a lot of teams do, is they set ball screens to get you in rotations. A lot of times our ball screens are set because we're trying to get Ryan running to the rim and just throw the ball up there for him. So
just wanted to let you know that when you were saying how difficult it is, we threw your Peru State stats up on the screen.
Thank you. 50% from 3 in D1 games.
While doing that. Hey, I just wanted to point
out.
According
to ESPN.
We talk a ton about men's basketball, but I think the factoid that John Bishop shared from Rob Anderson last night was incredible. Creighton is the only Division I school with 24 or more wins in men's and women's basketball and volleyball in the entire country. So obviously we want to give a ton of credit to Jim Flannery and his squad as they're getting ready for their run to March, as well as the Jays trying to win the Big East Championship tonight as well. And it is the Roll Jays podcast brought to you by Pixel Fire Marketing, Pyramid Contractors, and Pepper Jack's Grill. We're just about 3 hours away from tip at MSG. Casey Matthews, give us your tip or your keys to the game tonight for the Jays.
Yeah, so tonight, I think you got to work for great shots, but don't be afraid to take them when you see them. You might not get great ones tonight, and we might be stuck taking good ones. Got to be ready to shoot the ball when you're open. I think if you're taking too much time looking for that great one, you might pass up the best shot you're going to get on that possession. I also think, and I say this every game, I know, but you have to take care of the basketball. St. John's is so good at forcing turnovers, and emotions are going to be high in that building. If you're going to turn it over, kick it out of bounds. Don't shoot it. Dude, if that's how you need to turn it over, then that's how you need to turn it over. Don't let them get in transition and run and get this crowd into it. And then I think the last thing is it's something that has been a staple, and it has to be a staple tonight. So you've got to play without fouling. It's going to be a physical game. It's going to be an emotional game. Can you do that for 40 minutes and not foul? We need Steven. We need Jemiah. We need everybody to be able to play. And so those would be my three main things for tonight.
Yeah, I think we talked about it yesterday in the pregame. If you're going to foul, make it a good one. Steven's foul late in the DePaul game, stopping a run. Like if you have to if you have to burn a foul to late, especially late in the second half in a close game, to prevent a massive momentum swing, just essentially be smart, make the right plays, right? Like, and that's basketball 101. Be smart, make the right plays, and this team tends to do that. Continue to take care of the ball. I think you have to win the glass tonight. It can't just be close. You have to win it, and you have to win it well. But more than R.J. Lewis, more than Kadari Richmond, more than Scott. The one thing I noticed last night in the arena is when Zuby Ejiofor got going.
He's their energy guy.
It was a totally different environment. Mm-hmm. So I feel confident with the 4-time reigning Defensive Player of the Year and being able to keep him limited. But you have to limit him.
Yeah, 33 points is incredible performance from him last night. 33 points, 9 rebounds from Zuby Ejiofor. My key to the game is when you're going to go into the paint, do it with confidence. We've seen this team specifically this weekend too many times drive in and essentially not really have a game plan if the first shot's not there and kind of have to dribble around and figure it out, get late into the shot clock. We've had 3 shot clock violations in the last 2 games. I don't want to see that happen once tonight, specifically in a situation where you get a really good look and a drive to the basket, and just because of a lack of understanding where the defensive alignment is, have to reset the offense again. Now, that's going to happen when you have a Zuby Ejiofor in the way that St. John's plays defense. You can't do that too often against this team, because what they'll do is they'll turn you over and they'll make you pay for it, and you'll get into the pick 6 situations like you were just referencing. But Creighton plays for a Big East championship tonight. Coach McDermott yet to win one. It is one of the few things that has eluded him in his career.
Tonight's tonight.
Can it happen? We'll find out. Don't forget to join us at halftime. We do apologize for the audio issues we had last night. We do have that all fixed. We will be with you at halftime at MSG. Thank you to everybody that was watching on YouTube today. Please don't forget to subscribe to the Roll Jays podcast as well. For everybody else that joined us on all of our other socials, we appreciate you. We'll see you after the game. Roll Jays.